Om Brahmanandam Param Sukhadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagan Sadrisham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Om. Erodations to Sadguru, who is Brahman, the giver of supreme bliss, embodiment of pure consciousness, one without a second, vast as the ether, infinite, eternal, beyond the three gunas and their modifications, the supreme preceptor. Yoga Vasistha, Mumukshu Prakarana, section 18, and we are dealing with a bird's eye view of all that you are going to gain by studying Yoga Vasistha. Figure out how to make the eyes bird-like. Many points have been already presented to you by assimilating the teachings. One gains purity of intellect as well as purity of feeling. Pure intellect is Shuddha-buddhi. Purity of feeling, Shuddha-bhavana, Shubha-bhavana. And naturally, impurities are negated, mala. Always remember, mala, Vikshepa and Avarana, these are the three great obstacles to be tackled for attaining liberation. And that you have to tackle, not tickle. And all the three are there before you every day. It's not when you study in sequence, one after another. In practice, they are all together in a khichdi form. So, how to develop the art of performing your duty in accordance with karma yoga, how to turn action into karma yoga. That movement removes mala, gross impurity. Gross impurity implies your mind being shaken by anger, hate, greed, perverted desires, and so many things. That mala will be gradually move away as you go on doing your mala. As a result, you develop nirmal mind. From animal to nirmal. Put them jokes. So while karma turns into karma yoga, your emotions turn into bhakti yoga. Everything you love should allow you to have a little insight that what you are really loving is God. God in his different aspects. And a third point, mind is always operating by creating a will. This is what I must get. And then you test your strength by your willpower. That will movement turned to yoga, it's called Dhyana Yoga. It should not be just wasted will. It has to have a direction and a goal. And when goal becomes Godward movement, then your willing process turns into yoga. Ultimately, your will becomes attuned to God's will. And the understanding aspect of your mind, buddhi, intellect, that always tries to understand, that buddhi will develop intuitive vision. Understanding will not be just intellectual grasp, but reality, revelation of reality. That movement is Jnana Yoga. So, same things that you are involved in daily life, action, emotion, will and reason, you are involved in daily life. You can't live without it. But as you go deep into the understanding of Yoga Vasistha and bring in your life a sustained form of sadhana, spiritual discipline, sadhana, then gradually karma turns into karma yoga, emotion turns into bhakti yoga, willing turns into dhyana yoga, reasoning turns into jnana yoga. You become a yogi. But sages have made this whole process easily understandable by the master. The sages don't say, until you do this, I will not give you the name yogi. The very first day you start touching your nose, well, yogi. And the last day, you get the same title, yogi. Joking. So if you have followed this integral aspect of yoga, now also one point to remember that different aspirants, though they are practicing integral yoga, but in their mind they highlight one of the four yogas. Ask someone, I'm a karma yogi. Another, I'm bhakti, I don't care for anything else. I'm only dhyan, meditate. I only Brahma Satyam, I only understand the whole world is illusion. If you are not narrow-minded, really involved, you may go on saying that. But all your personality evolves together. Action, emotion, will and reason all undergo transformations. So when you have come to a higher level, adopting this integral movement, and you have come to Sattva-apatti, as I have explained, the state where you are known as Jivanmukta, well rooted in this knowledge that Yoga Vasistha provides. When you come to that stage, nadveshti sap pravittani nirvittani kankshati karyanyesha praviddhopi nishprabuddha ivadruma. Karmas present situations that are agreeable as well as disagreeable. Led by your karma, conditions arise that are very pleasant. You interpret them as success, as fortune. And conditions arise that are miserable. Just like weather, whether you like it or not. Sometimes the weather is very clear. Beautiful breeze, birds are singing. But then suddenly, even though you are expecting that weather to be always like that, suddenly things go wild. Even during the night, you hear the shattering of windows and trees breaking down and so forth. I don't have to describe that. And that's natural for everyone who lives in any embodiment. But I will not go into many embodiments, human embodiment. Why do you face challenging situations or pairs of opposites, pleasure and pain, gain and loss, praise and censure? Why do you face that? Led by karmas. Change your karmas and you can make some improvement within yourself. That's one way to understand. But the scriptures are leading you to a state, to that revelation of truth, which goes beyond karmas. Karmas are transcended. Liberation is a revelation of what you are. You are not going to create anything. But karmic movement is a movement towards acquiring bhoga. Bhoga is experience, worldly experience. And it has two implications. Experiencing the fruits of good karmas and experiencing the fruits of negative karmas. And both are blended in life. One who is so intent upon the goal, and the goal being, I am Brahman. The mind has developed that profound vision of the reality. That mind is not shaken by fruits of karmas. Fruits of karmas present themselves. No one is free from that. देह धरे का दंड है सब काहू को वे. Anyone who is in embodied state, no matter who he is, no matter how much yoga he may have practiced, and no matter what state of enlightenment he has reached, with the passage of time, the eyes will start winking, face will start shrinking, hairs will start growing, becoming grey. Can't turn to a person, aren't you a yogi? Can't you stop all that? So that's not. If you are expecting that as a result of yoga, so your expectation is childish. Yeah, yoga will give you certain degree of physical vitality and certain degree of long life, etc. Yoga will give you, but that is not the goal of yoga. In spite of all that, you are going to face moving away, the process of aging and moving away from the world. That nobody can stop. But if you have entered into deep understanding, then you build up a state of experience, an inner awareness that I am like the sky. All these things are coming like clouds. Should I be worried about how many clouds have come and how many have not come? Should I start educating the clouds when they come? Come in a joyous mood, do some dance, have joy, elaborate this extension. In other words, that's what people always, that's what the predicament is. You wake up early in the morning, am I going to have good news? Things are going on good in Australia, in New Zealand, in Alaska. Am I going to hear good news, or am I going to hear bad news? I will not go into too much detail in that. But as spiritual evolution continues within yourself, you can be informed of all the news that go on, but you don't allow yourself to be shaken. View them as passing phenomena. You enrich yourself with new words, new vocabularies. Make your language richer. I'm joking. Implying you go on enriching yourself from all the news and how things are happening, allowing your inner spirituality to continue to flourish. That art, all these are ideal. And if you find you are distant from it, don't worry. Gradually, little by little, the movement must continue to make life meaningful. Otherwise, life has no meaning at all if it is only dependent on happenings. So therefore, karma-based situations that are constantly changing situations of pleasure and pain, that karma-based situations do not shake his heart. His heart remains untouched. The study of the scripture and reflecting upon what you have studied, enjoying the satsanga related to this, that expounds the scripture. If you do that, the result is as inevitable, as sure, as curse or boon pronounced by gods. And God gives you a boon or blessing or curse, whichever way, that cannot be negated. All this is old style of literature that's showing that the effectiveness cannot go in vain. You cannot stay the same personality if you have gone and start assimilating the teachings. Now, this scripture has been written in such a way, it's highly literary. Literature is called sahitya. Hit term means that which benefits you profoundly. Sahitya, literature, a good literature is that which enriches your Shubha-bhavana, good feeling, helps you in a profound way. This is a profound literature, profound sahitya. Certain terms are used to describe this scripture. First term is Shastra. Shastra is always translated as scripture, but many people don't understand the true meaning. Shastra means Shasak Traya. Shasak, that three types of control. The Upanishad gives you, rather the Yoga Vasistha gives you, a plan in life for controlling thought, word and deed. So the effect of scripture is on all the three stages, on your thoughts, on your words, on your actions. And therefore, scripture called Shastra, threefold discipline, spiritual discipline. Suvodham, the scripture is made presented in such a way that sometimes you go into the scripture laughing, being entertained, a story is being told, and come to recognize or come to the grip of something so profound that it would have taken a lot of intellectual work to reach that level. That's the art of education. If you are a good teacher, you give serious teachings to your students in a laughing way. They all brighten up their face as they learn. But you are not a good teacher. Even before you start teaching, you may call children or students black-faced. Same applies with spiritual teaching. Spiritual teaching should not be a kind of creating a sense of fright. Many satsangs are pin drop silence. Considered it so serious, nobody can laugh. And in that frightened state of mind, few are benefited, but not many. In that state of fright, they can't open up their heart. They can't even question, I didn't understand. Can you please tell him? He will be frightened, he will send you to hell. So Yoga Vasistha has given that type of environment of profound teaching done in such a way that it is delicious, you relish it. Described as it is alankar vibhushit, literature that has ornaments, decked by ornaments. What ornaments? Arthalankar. The meaning, when you get into the meaning of what you are being told, that gives you a special joy. This being poetic writing, meanings are not limited. You see from different angle, come to a different understanding. Today you read and you have certain understanding. 3 days later, read the same thing and something else opens up. So, you are not limited to simply literal meaning. A subtle meaning goes on developing out of the literature. Arthalankar, Shabda-alankar. Certain statements come into the scriptures that you can't let go from your mind. You are the architect of your destiny. Can't let go out of your mind. You are Satchidananda. Aham Brahmasmi. And, most important, it's full of rasa. There are 10 rasas, let me explain to you. Rasas are that promote delight to your heart. They are like flavor for your inner sentiments. And when that flavor is being enjoyed by your feeling, your sentiment, then listening to the scripture is not a hard job. It's like a big entertainment. You have gone into a garden and someone is just explaining the flowers and describing the bees and telling jokes about how the birds are speaking to each other. Now the foremost rasa that masses go after is called Shringar. Shringar is amorous. sentiment, erotic sentiment, that literal. But from script, when you study the scripture, the Shringar is moving towards loving God, Godward movement. Your soul becomes the bride. God becomes the husband. And the bride's constant worry is, what should I wear? How can I please the husband? When you live your life with that type of taste for God's love, also understand that doesn't mean that you shut everything out and go somewhere in the forest, I will love God alone. But that's not the real meaning behind that. Every form of love that you have, you are actually, that love relates to God. A mother loves her child. Behind that love, the source of that love is love of God. It's love, just like anywhere you look at illuminations of the sun, you see this sun reflecting in countless jars. Point to any jar and point to the sun and say, I love that sun. That jar is wonderful. But actually, whom are you loving? Not the jar, not the reflection, but the real sun. But it requires a training. First, your mind has been drawn to the jars and the suns reflected in them. Gradually, you have to allow the mind to grow, not stay in that dull-wit state. So what I am implying, that when you develop sadhana, practice sadhana, and yoga movement starts, you deal with your relatives, friends, etc. in a practical way. At the same time, you develop a profounder type of love for them. A type of love that makes your relationships much more meaningful, and in other words, it abounds with peace, harmony, prosperity. If you don't have that understanding, then you are looking at people and creating a concept. This person is a pishacha. Why did I love this person for such a long time? He's a devil. And so forth. In simple terms, you are leading your mind to understand all relations. You are in a way communicating with God through all relations. Serving God by adapting, adjusting, harmonizing with people around you. Worshipping God by acts of charity and so forth. So, when Shringar Ras, that profound rasa develops in your mind, a kind of subtle sense of immense sweetness develops in your heart. And that sweetness touches all people that you come across. And what's more, it has a magical effect. Inimical people turn into saintly people. And that's the test of very advanced culture. You build up a culture where always you are looking for laws that define this bad person, this good person. Puts the bad persons into prison, shuts them out, throw them out. I'm joking. Not joking, but that's a reality. Profound culture, no matter how ugly, no matter how crooked a person may appear to be, person is sick, he should be treated with compassion. You develop a type of understanding and attitude that changes a demoniac person into a saintly person. That's the challenge of culture. And that's the root of all scripture, all religions, deep down. That's called universal love. So that's the goal behind these stories that give you erotic type of picture of the story or whatever. Next rasa is Veer rasa, heroic. Next one is Karuna, pathos. I'm not elaborating, but each one will require a whole book, you see. Karuna, pathos. Adbhut, marvelous. That's what tickles human mind when you found something amazing, you tell everybody, oh father, oh mother, look. I've seen a rabbit with a horn. Next, hasya, humor. Great teachings can be given if you're artistic and well experienced. Profound things can be presented. And instead of your getting serious about it and becoming offended by it, you tell a person you are a fool, you are dull wit. You are offended by it. But when you give it the proper perspective, you are Brahman. But right now it's the ignorance. So wake up. Arise. The scriptures adopt a lot of humorous stories. Another sentiment is bhayanak. Bhayanak means terrifying. You see, all the scriptures deal with demons coming to fight. And when the demons are described, they are bhayanak, fearful. They have big teeth, big horns, big body of Kumbhakarna, 4 miles tall. People eat little cabbages, etc. for breakfast. He eats elephants for breakfast. Next type of sentiment of vibhats, disgusting. Animal vomits so many things that it starts licking up all the vomit. Disgusting. And so is led by ignorance. That's a predicament of in daily life, things that you didn't like, you vomited them, but kept the vomited refrigerator. Experiences that were disgusting. And we hated them. But then you go after the same thing. And got disgust. Vibhats. Next type of sentiment is Raudra. Raudra is terrible. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or terrorizing pictures of demons. All those are described as Raudra, terrible movement. Next is called Shant, peaceful, like a flower blossoming, and all the atmosphere is calm, and monkeys are in ecstasy. Peacocks are dancing. Everywhere is calm, cool. All these sentiments are brought into a good literature. Human mind, receiving these sentiments, remains very energized. But if you do not let your mind work along these sentiments in a right way, mind becomes restricted. Your tendency becomes to be narrow-minded. And that's not religion. That's another big obstacle. So that's the beauty of Yoga Vasistha, and that's the beauty of many Puranas. That's how the literature is presented. Bhagavad Purana, Mahabharata, Ramayana, and all the Puranas have that artistic presentation given by sages. Yoga Vasistha is the topic, and Yoga Vasistha contains all this in the most elegant way possible. You don't have to go after many books. It's the world's greatest literature, containing highest philosophy. Listening to Yoga Vasistha, reflecting upon the teachings, and realizing the teaching, knowing the teaching in a profound way. All this brings about a great transformation in the impressions of your chitta, of your unconscious. As long as unconscious has not been impacted in a profound way, your spirituality remains immature. But when unconscious has this, what is given in Ramayana, unconscious Lanka, where Sita was held captive, Hanuman crosses over the ocean and he burns down Lanka. Burning down Lanka means he makes a big change in the samskaras, impressions. Hanuman type of faith-based and faith and spiritual knowledge, as they begin to advance, there comes a mystic flare that enters your unconscious and changes in a profound way. And all this is not known to you. All this does not, the news doesn't break. But your nature goes on changing. So if you are sensitive, you know that things that were so difficult, now they have become so easy. Everything you face with diffidence, now you are moving towards with confidence and firm faith. By studying this scripture, one develops panditya. The term, pandit term is well known. Previously was not so well known, but now it's international word, Pandit. But it comes from philosophical scriptures. Pandit is one who develops discriminative knowledge, the knowledge that shows the difference between truth and falsehood, between rope and the snake superimposed on it, between the self and the not self. That type of subtle intellect, that's called Panda. And whoever has acquired that knowledge is called Pandit. And that type of knowledge is available through Yoga Vasistha. So you will be easily led to become Pandits without going anywhere. Just as with the rising of the sun, all dark shadows and darkness vanish. Similarly, with the revelation of truth, when intellect becomes intuitive, you are not trapped in the world of triad. For easy understanding, something happens in your mental process when you go to sleep. It becomes cramped. And as a result, dream arises. And while dreaming, you are facing a world of past, present, and future. And deeply involved, worried about why did I do so many things? Why did I do all those bad karmas? And becoming also clever. Want to know the answer to the question, when was this world created? And you have company of people who have different ideas. One says 1,000 years ago, and says, no, million years, no, trillion years ago. But wake up, all that didn't exist. So all the, what I'm leading to understand, all that creates a stress and a pressure on your mind. Countless things that you know. When you attain enlightenment, when the enlightened vision doesn't see countless things. For simple understanding, you see countless illuminations of the sun, day by day, countless. But if you have come to realize the sun, then your mind will not go after those countless things. Sun is all countless things are nothing but the sun. Similarly, countless things are real for you for the sake of yourself. Your mind goes on working, this is me, and this is the world I have come in because of my karmas, and this is the world I want to have. And then your mind has a whole picture of how Alaska should be, how Australia should be, how from North Pole to South Pole. And you become more clever, the status of this Mars, Jupiter, and many other things. All crowd your mind. But all that crowd dissolves. And that's a revelation of who am I? I am the absolute I am. That revelation occurs in the depth of your heart. Your practical personality continues according to the karma that I have explained. When karma for the body is over, the body moves away, just like anybody else's. But whether a sage is with body or without body, his attainment remains infallible, unaffected. What is generally people become too involved with the understanding? How does a sage experience the world? And Yoga Vasistha is trying to give you different ways to understand it. Just like a person who is very imaginative, sits on his chair and his mind starts doing so many imaginations, called building castles in the air. And while he is building the castle, suddenly one castle falls. Another castle collapses. And big accidents take place. But he is simply amused because he is his own imagination. Consider the whole world that you are worried about turns into like castles in the air. With God within you as the reality, who cannot be taken away, who is the absolute like the sky. All things of the world, past, present, and future, all the knowledge seems so great, but they are interpretations caused by your little nervous system. Simple illustration is all the news of the world and so many informations come into your iPhone. If iPhone had a conscious soul, it will start shouting at you. How much have I served you? Do prayer every day. All experiences are brought out by your body, your brain, your nervous system. Beyond that, the moment you go to sleep, if the moment your nervous system is quieted down, you have no experience. You are not lost. Because you are not the body. You are not the nervous system. So even while you are identified with the nervous system, allow your intellect, mind, etc. to be in touch with the absolute reality. That's the purpose of sadhana. So that in spite of all that go on, there's a little channel opened, as it were, that gives you a message of absolute security for you. Don't worry. Milk from the Kamadhenu is dripping down right into your throat. And you are the absolute Brahman. A big artist paints snake puts the painting in such a way that anybody coming quickly into the room becomes frightened. The snake painting is so real. But it is a painting. Similarly, the whole world and all your experience of past, present, and future, all your worries and anxieties and all your success and failure, all are like snake in a painted picture. Another way of saying snake on the rope. Another way of saying the toy snake. Fashioned in such a way, you go into a room and just. But when you come to realize it is a toy snake, it is a painted picture. It is not the whole dream, no matter how real, it is not going to scratch you anywhere. Once you realize that, then you live your life in this practical world without being affected by it. You live with perfect inner joy and inner stability. And that's the goal. To reach that goal, that it is progressive. You don't have to wait until you are fully realized. Try to see that you are maintaining certain degree of stability in spite of challenging situations. And you count upon your stability as the mark of progress. Maintain that stability. And there, in relation to that, we say wait and watch. WW, wait and watch. I would say WWW, wait, watch and wonder. Okay, with this I'm concluding. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om